In the depths of the forest, where the mountains reach high into the clouds, there is a rabbit who is peacefully trying to survive. Leisurely nibbles some berries on the bush. That little rabbit did not know that something, or rather someone, was silently watching its every move. Standing at the edge of the cliff, a boy with eyes full of excitement and burning hunger, licking his lips like a waiting predator. The boy with dragon blood jumped off the edge of the cliff, his long tail flying after him. Both arms relax at the sides, but the sharp claws are ready for action. Like a dragon descending from the sky, the dragon boy rushed straight towards the little rabbit below. The rabbit sensed the presence of the large creature, but didn't have time to react before being pinned to the ground. It weakly begged not to be eaten. But the dragon boy did not hesitate, affirming that once his prey was captured, he would not escape. Opening his jaws wide, the dragon boy bit straight into the neck. Kill the rabbit immediately before starting to devour the body. In the middle of my meal, the dragon boy suddenly realized that he was no longer alone. A large tiger with striped fur was quietly approaching, with slow but dangerous steps. The two creatures stared at each other, their eyes refusing to give in. The tiger roared while the dragon boy hissed in response. With a quick jump, the dragon boy tried to fly away, but suddenly realized that his movements became slower. The dragon boy looked down and found the tiger clinging to him. The tiger's powerful jaws bit deeply into his leg, causing him to thrash violently to escape the ferocious beast. But then, the dragon boy's energy suddenly ran out, and the two fell to the ground, colliding violently. The tiger quickly climbed up. Using his teeth, he bit into the dragon boy's flesh. In a desperate effort, the dragon boy tried to push the tiger away. Weakly begged, "If he is eaten, kill him first." The striped tiger stopped and looked down at the small dragon boy, his eyes showing some sympathy. It seemed to realize that he was just a child. Relaxing his body, the tiger lay on top of him, still keeping him pinned down but no longer aggressive. At this moment, the tiger, now clearly a woman, bent down and gently licked the dragon boy's face. That unexpected gentleness caused him to fall unconscious, while the sounds of nearby water and small animals echoed around the forest. When he regained consciousness, the dragon boy realized he was lying in a cave. The striped tiger took him back to his lair. The dragon boy tried to stand up, but realized that the wound caused by the tiger was still very fresh and painful. Even so, he still tried to quietly leave the cave. Suddenly something held his leg tightly. This sudden action startled him, and in anger, he whipped his tail at the tiger's face, glared at her and scolded her for daring to hold her injured leg. The tiger looked at him, stunned by his insolence, then pouted before pinning him to the ground again. However, the dragon boy did not show any signs of panic, calmly explained that he was hungry. At that moment, he wriggled out of her restraints, knowing that she had no intention of eating him. The tiger now spoke up and explained that the reason she didn't eat him was because he was too young. Hearing that, the dragon boy laughed, squinting his eyes sarcastically, said that she should feed him to make him grow fast. The tiger was confused by the suggestion, but responding to that confusion was a mischievous, disobedient attitude from the little dragon boy. The dragon boy grumbled that he could neither hunt nor fly far with this wound, and that if the condition continued, he might starve to death. Those complaints made the striped tiger feel uncomfortable, but in the end, she did as he said. She quietly approached a young hoofed animal, then rushed to catch his prey while the dragon boy stood on a cliff. Eyes follow the distant sky. His peace was quickly disturbed by the voices of a group of creatures approaching. He lowered his gaze and saw a pack of wolves approaching him. Their eyes glowed with the intention of tearing his dragon's body apart. They remembered the rumors about dragon meat being delicious, dragon blood being able to heal all wounds, and dragon hearts having the ability to grant immortality. The dragon boy breathed heavily, contemptuously asking if they really believed such silly rumors. But the wolves did not answer, just quietly moved closer. He tried to explain that he already had a predator following him. When those words rang out, the silhouette of a striped tiger appeared. The wolves growled, but the tiger responded with a sharp hiss, declaring that the dragon boy was her prey. The tiger rushed towards the wolves. Her strength is enough to knock a wolf away, slamming another's body into the ground, and bit deeply into the third's throat. Her ferocity caused the remaining animals to panic and not dare to do anything. However, the dragon boy noticed another wolf slowly crawling down the edge of the cliff. This one was larger, with a prominent scar where an ear used to be. The tiger turned around but had no time to react before the big wolf bit her neck hard. She tried to use her claws to attack, but the wolf's teeth tightened without giving in, only penetrating deeper into her flesh. The pain makes the tiger dizzy and weak. Her hands hung limply in the air. The dragon boy looked at that scene with a sigh, until the scarred wolf was suddenly jerked into the air by its tail. It growled angrily, demanding to be put down. Its wish is granted, but not in the way it expected. The wolf's entire body was thrown into the abyss, disappearing in an instant. That scene frightened the other wolves and they fled in disarray. The dragon boy approached to check on the tiger woman's condition. At this time, his body was covered in dirt, bruises, and his neck was still bleeding. The tiger glared at him, but he just smirked and began to fly up. Teasing that he could run away at any time, while she was in such a pathetic state, he said that if she could fly up to his level, then she should try it. Those words made her unhappy, but instead of getting angry, she raised her head with a sarcastic smile. The dragon boy continued to tease that if anyone could make him ready to be eaten, it could definitely only be her. Not long after, he was pulled down and pinned to the ground again, while she threatened to actually eat him. However, he was not afraid, but instead used his hand to squeeze the wound on her neck, causing her to pause and lean back slightly. At that moment, the dragon boy wriggled free, looking at his hand with curiosity as it was stained with her blood. Seeing that action, the tiger got angry and called him a person without any charm. In response, the dragon boy just laughed and agreed, saying that food should not be considered seductive, surprising the tiger, looking at him with surprise. Not long after, he returned to her mentioning that he was still hungry, making her more confused. The dragon boy asked her if there was anything more interesting than eating. Then the two started walking together. The dragon boy asked the tiger girl about the prey she hunted, but she remained silent, meaning that the tiger probably escaped. The sound of gurgling water in the forest rang out when a bear tried to sneak up on the young dragon boy. However, the bear quickly noticed the tiger's presence. The bear stepped closer, but it seemed the dragon boy knew it was hiding before. He just glanced at it, causing the bear to lose patience and turn around and leave with an annoyed look. The tiger woman looked down at the ground, where the dragon boy was drawing something on the ground. She asked what it was, and he explained that it was her drawing. However, she did not seem satisfied with this. Seeing that, the dragon boy quickly changed the subject, asking about food. She didn't answer, and her silence proved that she hadn't hunted anything yet. He mocked her hunting skills and criticized himself for being captured by such a bad person. He went on to speculate that the reason she had difficulty hunting was probably due to her pale color, making her easy to detect by her prey. With his body standing out in the scene, the dragon boy bent down to the river and tried to clap his hands into the water to catch fish. However, the fish quickly passed by and jumped out of the water, but this time, the tiger was able to catch it. He laughed at that scene, and the two continued to catch one more fish before enjoying the meal together. However, his attention was quickly distracted by the sound of birds nearby. The birds were whispering about him, wondering if he was the last dragon of his kind. Those words made him angry. He picked up a stone and threw it at them, scaring them away. After that, he turned around and told her that they should move on. She tried to ask about the other dragons, but he refused to answer, even when she persisted in wanting to know. Finally, the two returned to the tiger's den to sleep. However, when she looked at him in his sleep, she couldn't help but silently think. In the middle of the night, she heard a slight noise, went outside and found an owl perching nearby. The owl asked why she hadn't eaten the dragon boy yet. In response, she simply said that it was because he was too young. But the owl was not convinced. It told her that she should give up this waiting game, because dragons live for thousands of years, while tigers only live for less than 20 years. The owl advised her to eat the dragon boy now before it was too late. Hearing those words, the striped tiger girl returned to the cave, her eyes staring at the dragon boy. She quietly peeled off the unnecessary parts to find an ideal place, preparing to bite into it. Just as she was about to strike, the dragon boy suddenly burst out laughing, breaking the silence. He opened his eyes and revealed that he had been awake the entire time. He asked her if she really thought he would sleep so innocently next to a predator. She didn't answer but instead asked if he could really live that long. The question made him laugh, but quickly turned into a serious expression. He asked her again if she believed what he said, even though he tried to be gentle and cheerful. Then, without letting her answer, he mocked her for believing what the other creatures said. But he also added that tigers don't need to be smart, because they just need to know how to run and bite without thinking. Those words made the tiger really angry. Unable to control herself, she pinned him to the ground again, but this time she really bit him, aiming straight for his shoulder. His scream of pain rang out as he yelled that she was stupid. The dragon boy, despite his pain, still spoke sarcastically, asking if all tigers only know how to use strength to force others to submit. As soon as the words ended, he threw a strong kick, knocking the striped tiger girl away, leaving her with a bewildered face. He walked away, wanting to leave this place, away from this annoying tiger. But just as he was about to leave, his tail was grabbed. He turned around and saw the tiger looking at him with eyes full of despair and guilt. She confessed that she knew nothing about dragons, making him curious why she wanted to know so much. Without answering her question, he pressed hard on his wound, took the blood and smeared it on her face. "It doesn't matter," he said, "because you're just going to eat me." However, he suddenly pulled her close, whispering in her ear that he was not a child. The tiger paused, trying to process this information, then suddenly wondered if he could be even younger. Her innocent question made him squint his eyes, his look filled with annoyance. From outside, the owl heard everything, flapping its wings and flying away while agreeing with the thought that this tiger girl really wasn't smart at all. Another day in the forest, where hoofed animals run between the trees. The tiger girl hid in the dark, then suddenly rushed out to pounce on one of them. With a strong bite to the neck, she easily takes down her prey. The dragon boy flew down, and the two shared a meal from the animal's carcass. Afterwards, they lay down to rest together, and the dragon boy suddenly asked why she was looking at his body like that. She explained that it was to escape herself from complacency, making the dragon boy feel curious. He raised his hand and gently stroked her fur. That sudden action startled her, her eyes widened in surprise. She asked him not to touch her, her voice accompanied by a low growl. But the dragon boy didn't feel worried at all, just curiously asked why she was so uneasy. Without stopping, he continued to hold and gently stroke her soft fur. That action made the striped tiger gradually lose her strength, feel weak and unable to refuse what he was doing. The tiger girl rolled onto her back, her sudden action surprising the dragon boy. It seemed like she really enjoyed being caressed, something he didn't expect, but that moment was quickly interrupted by the sound of someone approaching. "It's another tiger." The two tigers began to growl, their eyes not hiding their challenge. Meanwhile, the dragon boy tore a piece of flesh from the nearby prey carcass, then flew high to observe the confrontation. The tiger tries to assert ownership of her territory, but the new tiger wants to challenge that. The two rushed at each other, their claws clashing violently. The white tiger quickly took advantage, slapped the opponent in the face before pinning the other tiger to the ground. "Bite hard on its throat." Finally, the male tiger uttered a plea, admitting that he had lost and did not need to be killed. Immediately, the tiger let go of her teeth, letting her opponent stand up and turn towards her to adjust her majestic appearance. The male tiger, after acknowledging his respect for her strength, freely declared that the two should become life partners. That straightforward suggestion made the young dragon boy freeze, not understanding what was going on. Ignoring his confusion, the male tiger continued to speak, claiming that she wanted to have children and currently did not have any litters. The tiger girl only responded with a light snort, thinking for a moment. At this point, the dragon boy couldn't take it anymore. He flew down, reminding the male tiger that she was in some ways raising him. But instead of hesitating, the male tiger jumped up with excitement, declaring that the dragon boy could become food for their children. The dragon boy's face immediately changed color, his eyes filled with anger. He explained bluntly that if the tiger wanted to choose a mate, he had to be stronger than her. The tiger agreed, saying that was her criteria. Hearing that, the male tiger pondered and thought, then decided that he would train to prove himself worthy. However, the dragon boy did not want to see him again. Watching the male tiger leave, the dragon boy sighed, while the striped tiger girl relaxed on a rock. When the dragon scolded her for not thinking clearly, she calmly replied that she had thought about it, then admitted that she wanted to leave behind many descendants so that she could survive even after death. Her answer made the dragon silently stare at her, before exhaling and complaining that all tigers were like that. This surprised her when he suddenly admitted that he did not want his bloodline to continue, that he would be the end. She curiously asked if he hated dragons, but his answer surprised her even more. He said that he did not hate dragons, but hated himself for being born as a dragon. Her curiosity grew, but when she tried to ask more, he became defiant, like a child, and refused to say anything more. The dragon boy also mentioned finding it strange that his species always had a strong desire to mate. The tiger explained that it was necessary for the good of the family. Hearing that, the dragon boy threw away the half-chewed bone, grabbed her, and said that her main priority should be to eat him. They both fell to the ground, but soon he flew up, leaving the tiger girl lying on the ground with an annoyed look on her face. He flew around, wondering what he had left unfinished when he was caressing her earlier. Moments later, the female tiger was seen sleeping peacefully, while he sat next to her. However, his normally contented face gradually became quiet, his eyes lowered, staring at the ground with sadness. Suddenly, from an egg, a small creature cracked its shell and was welcomed by the larger dragon. The big dragon gently scratched the little creature's head, causing the baby dragon to smile happily, enjoying the pleasant feeling of the first gesture of affection that seemed to come from his parents. The adult dragon bent down and opened its mouth wide before grabbing the baby dragon's head, as if it were food. Blood flowed from the wound in his neck, creating a horrifying nightmare that caused the dragon boy to wake up. He coughed, clutching his throat, scratching the ground in panic before calming himself down. His eyes glanced over the sleeping tiger, her peaceful face a complete contrast to his uneasy look. Unable to dispel his anxiety, he stepped out into the rain, let out a small complaint about the weather, and flew away. While gliding through the sky, he heard a baby bird chirping in its nest. The faint sounds of birds calling helplessly for their mothers. He grabbed a weak baby bird and held it suspended in his mouth, preparing to swallow it. But his actions suddenly stopped. He thought for a moment, the image of the nightmare he had just returned to his mind. In the end, he decided to find food elsewhere, especially after having just experienced such a scary dream. The dragon boy was out of luck, as it seemed like every animal around had some sort of family relationship. This made him tiredly sit down on a rock, looking up at the gloomy sky, thinking. Meanwhile, the tiger woke up in a sleepy state and turned to her side, only to realize that the boy had disappeared. His absence made her stand up and walk out into the rain in a state of gradual awakening and disturbed by the thought that he might have abandoned her. Even though he had always behaved strangely before, that thought still made her grit her teeth, determined to run to find him. She made her way through the forest, skimming through puddles and looking around every tree looking for clues, despite the relentless rain. Finally, she heard the hissing of a mink nearby. The tigress tried to ask the weasel if he had seen the dragon boy, but he continued to growl, as if wanting to protect his family. She stood there, listening to its roar in exhaustion, then explained that she had no intention of attacking. The weasel seemed to calm down. Then showed her the way, giving her a path to continue searching. The tiger girl found the dragon boy on the top of the mountain. She walked over with a pouting face, blaming him for leaving without warning. The dragon boy flew down, teasing her for not paying attention to his prey. But she just bit him lightly, then turned away and led him back without saying another word. The dragon boy felt frustrated by her silence, especially since he could move on his own. But she continued to return to the cave, shaking her body to shake off the raindrops clinging to her fur. Before he could react, the tiger girl pulled him close to warm him because of the cold weather, and he decided not to refuse. He leaned against her soft fur while she licked his feet clean. The dragon boy admitted about his nightmare, saying he dreamed of being eaten by a dragon. The tiger tried to comfort him, until he explained that it wasn't unfounded. He said that for some dragons, newborns are only considered food. The tiger girl couldn't believe it, but the dragon boy clutched her fur, saying that because of this behavior, not many dragons existed anymore. She started looking at him, despite his complaints, and explained that tigers would be very happy if someone did the same for them. But the dragon boy reminded her that he was clearly not a tiger. She leaned closer to him, asking what she should do next. Confused him, he turned away and replied that she should continue to warm him. The tiger girl leaned closer and lay on top of the dragon boy, enveloping his body with her warmth. But it seemed like someone was watching them from afar. A large bird soared through the sky, then landed on top of a mountain, where a dragon was perched. A sinister smile appeared on its face. The white tiger woman stretches her body while standing in the water of the river. Then suddenly realized someone was running towards him, causing water to splash. A male tiger rushed forward, happily greeted her and asked if she had eaten the dragon like she said. But without waiting for an answer, he came closer and rubbed his face against her. The white tiger remained motionless for a moment, then slowly turned towards the male tiger as he licked her fur. He stepped back a bit after that intimate action. The male tiger bowed his body low, trembling, preparing to rush towards the female tiger. But just then, a dragon tail glided into the scene, interrupting the situation. The dragon boy's tail wrapped around the male tiger's neck, pulling him away from the female tiger. Then he angrily looked at him and asked what they were doing. The male tiger, his arms around his neck, seemed a bit disappointed to see that the dragon boy was still alive. He explained that he was just playing with the white tiger. But the dragon boy was not satisfied with that answer. He placed an arm in front of the female tiger, threatening the male tiger to stay away if he did not have a legitimate reason to be there. This caused the male tiger to stop, think for a moment, then sheepishly rub the back of his neck. Suddenly, he remembered something he wanted to say to the dragon boy. With that, the male tiger said that there were rumors of another dragon in the area, causing the dragon boy's eyes to widen. The tiger continued to explain, saying that the dragon was female and that all this information came from migrating birds. Even though the dragon boy seemed to despise the information from the birds, he still seemed very worried when he heard those words. The male tiger continued, admitting that this was not a reliable source, especially since he had never met this dragon himself. However, he said this dragon had 4 horns on its head and 4 antennae. The dragon boy was even more surprised. In his mind he pictured the appearance of that dragon. He immediately asked the male tiger where that dragon was. He said that this dragon was discovered in the southeast region. Immediately, the dragon boy grabbed the tiger girl's wrist and said that they needed to run away now. The tiger girl thought for a bit about where they would run to, but the dragon boy didn't care about the destination, as long as it was far from where they were. The white tiger refused, saying that leaving her territory was dangerous. However, the dragon boy believed that it would be even more dangerous if they stayed here. At that moment, the male tiger interjected, confused by the dragon boy's irritable attitude. He suggested that the dragon boy could have a child with the other female dragon, but the dragon boy immediately became angry and objected, saying that the proposal would change the amount of prey available to the tigers. The male tiger stopped, watching the dragon boy try to pull the tiger girl away, but then suddenly he had an idea and stopped them. He affirmed that he wanted the white tiger to stay here. The dragon boy, filled with confusion and anger, asked him again. The male tiger continued to say that the white tiger would soon be his mate. The dragon boy tried to ask about mating with other tigers. However, the male tiger refused, saying that he would find someone else if he wanted, but he especially wanted the white tiger because of her strength and because he thought she was very beautiful. This compliment surprised the tiger and made her speechless. Meanwhile, the dragon boy bowed his head, pausing for a moment to think. Then he flew aside and said that he and the male tiger would compete, and whoever reached the top of the high rock first would be the winner. The male tiger was confused, not understanding why they couldn't simply fight, but the dragon boy explained that he did not want to get hurt, causing the male tiger to snort derisively. The male tiger told the dragon boy that there would be no point in the competition if he used his ability to fly, causing the dragon boy to sigh dramatically, then land on the ground, saying he would not cheating while looking straight ahead. The dragon boy told the male tiger that if he won, the male tiger could do whatever he wanted, but if he won, the male tiger had to give up having the white tiger as his mate. The male tiger smiled confidently, feeling like he couldn't lose. The white tiger stood and watched from afar as the competition began. The male tiger quickly got bored and flew into the air, swinging his arms over his side, chuckled and glanced at the ground, trying to ask the dragon boy if his skills were overwhelming. However, that moment of complacency quickly turned to confusion when the male tiger realized the dragon boy was gone, along with the white tiger girl. Screams rang out in the distance as the dragon boy tried to make his way through the forest. To the white tiger, who was feeling upset because he ran away from the match again. The dragon boy admitted that he never intended to compete. The tiger stopped, caught his attention, gritted her teeth and called him selfish. He felt insulted by those words, while the male tiger tried to reprimand him for violating his own match rules. However, the dragon boy reminded her that that was never his original plan. The tiger concluded that he was a liar. The dragon boy stopped for a moment, leaving a few light scratches on the tree, as a sign of suppressed anger, saying he didn't care, and telling the tiger that she still had the choice to stay with him. Male tiger. The male tiger forgot about the dragon boy, and even though he missed eating him, he still didn't finish his lecture. He continued to pull the tiger girl closer by his tail, explaining that victory did not necessarily rely on strength, and that he, a dragon, was not like tigers who only knew about brawn. Although the dragon boy tried to say a few more words. But right at that moment, the white tiger bit his tail, growled angrily and held it tightly. Both sensed something rummaging near them. They looked around in confusion. Until the tiger suddenly felt a sharp pain. She jumped back, hissing in pain, when she discovered a deep wound on her leg. The tiger continued to growl, but the two did not know where the strange animal was. The tiger girl did not realize that the giant snake suddenly rushed out from the bushes and swept the dragon boy into its jaws. The snake was too fast, wrapping around the rocks as it glided away, and the white tiger quickly chased after it. Finally, she stopped at the edge of a waterfall. Meanwhile, the giant snake was able to hide itself, wrapping itself around the dragon boy with its long, scaly body. The boy seemed to recognize the animal. It called him Hekidu when greeting, while the waterfall roared in the distance. The snake wondered if the boy was bigger, but Hekidu struggled and wanted to be released. As expected, the snake refused and knew he would try to run away. Hekidu made no secret of it and admitted that he wanted to do so. The snake chuckled, approaching, opening his mouth wide and preparing to explain something to Hekidu, until the white tiger finally realized the situation. The tiger tried to creep forward menacingly, but in the end, she felt weak and staggered with every step. The wound the tiger girl received before finally took effect. Hekidu felt surprised when he realized that the tiger girl was being harmed by the poison. She trembled and looked up at the dragon boy with a desperate expression. Hekidu was even more surprised when he saw her collapse to the ground, unconscious. The snake was pleased with the situation and asked if the boy wanted to start eating the white tiger. However, Hekidu completely disagreed with that scene. Quickly slipped out of the snake's grip and slammed its face into the ground. Hekidu stood over the snake's body, asking it to know if there was any way to cure the tiger. However, the snake dodged the question by answering its previous question and confirming that the boy had grown older since they last met. Hekidu insisted on an answer, causing the snake to hum curiously at his behavior, because he wanted to help the person who planned to eat him. The snake pretended not to know the origin of the tiger girl's condition, causing Hekidu to growl and say that it was the snake that had to answer that question. The snake was silent for a moment before telling the boy that there was nothing that could be done when one was in a situation like the white tiger. Hekidu raised his head and looked towards the tiger. Hekidu immediately moved towards the unconscious body of the tiger girl, while the snake wondered why the boy was so attached to the tiger girl. However, Hekidu did not respond immediately. Just held the tiger's hand and told the snake that it should help him, because the snake recognized his obvious emotions. The snake stared at the boy for a moment before finally speaking, said that there might be only one way to help her tiger. After turning around, the snake told Hekidu that his blood was the answer. However, Hekidu did not believe this answer, thinking it was just a rumor. The snake remembered the first time it caught the dragon boy and noticed that the poison had no effect when biting Hekidu. No matter how many times he tried, the snake still could not inject poison into the boy's body. Hekidu seemed unaffected at all during that time. The dragon boy narrowed his eyes at the story, still not believing the snake's words, when it said that the dragon's blood seemed to be resistant to its poison. Even so, Hekidu was still hesitant, but the snake appeared hopeful, after giving a suggestion. The dragon boy scoffed at that suggestion, then bit his hand, surprising the snake to see Hekidu actually do this. Hekidu leaned closer to the white tiger and tried to orient his hand to drip blood into her mouth, but it wasn't very effective. This caused Hekidu to move closer with a new strategy in mind, after taking a mouthful of his own blood. Hekidu grabbed the tiger girl's face and pressed his lips against her to deliver a large amount of blood. It seemed like the white tiger suddenly inhaled when she felt the liquid in her mouth, then was told to swallow, which she hesitantly did. Hekidu felt she needed more blood, so he continued doing the same. Meanwhile, the snake lay in the water, watching with curiosity. Hekidu continued this action again, and then again, until the last drop of blood stopped, feeling that it was enough. The snake allowed Hekidu to leave the white tiger, and said that she would wake up soon if this theory was correct. Although there's also no guarantee when that will happen. A howl rang out from afar, causing the two to realize it was evening time. The boy was worried about potential dangers. However, the snake reassured that every creature in the area was aware of its presence and would not enter the area easily. Hekidu turned to look outside, regardless of the snake's words. This caused the snake to glance at the white tiger and tease Hekidu about his strong attachment, as he was willing to hurt himself to protect her. Hekidu decided to fly away, making the snake wonder where he was going, and whether Hekidu was sure he wanted to leave the tiger girl with the snake. Hekidu turned around and looked at the snake with angry eyes, threatening to harm the snake if anything happened to the white tiger, then flew away. The snake chuckled to himself, thinking about how the boy hadn't changed. As time passed, the white tiger continued to lie on the ground until she felt something touch her stomach, startled her and slowly regained consciousness. When the tiger opened her eyes, she faced the snake's eyes. This surprised her. She immediately sprang into action and demanded to know where Hekidu was. The snake grinned and pretended to have eaten the dragon boy, causing the white tiger to panic. She looked down, her face full of disappointment. This scene made the snake feel interesting and teased the tiger. However, new anger arose in the tiger girl, making her want to rush forward and bite the snake's body. That frantic action caused the snake to call the tiger's attention, admitting it was just a joke. The snake's words immediately had an effect, causing the tiger to stop and step back. The snake snorted into the wound, made a face and told the tiger that she had raised the dragon boy. This surprised the white tiger. Hekidu was found when he was very young, making the snake feel like it would be a waste to swallow the dragon boy in one go, as he liked to enjoy his food. The white tiger listened, with a dissatisfied expression, which the snake noticed. The snake bent down and licked the side of the tiger's face, feeling like their minds were on equal terms. However, the tiger just turned her eyes to the side, looking a bit embarrassed, and did not respond. Nearby, outside the cave, a crane was looking for fish to eat in the water before flying away. The snake told the tiger girl that Hekidu would definitely brag about this situation, like he usually does, just because he's a dragon. At the same time, rub your hand over the healing wound from the bite. The tiger felt frustrated because she never knew what the boy was thinking. The snake whispered and suggested that she observe Hekidu's tail. The great snake used his own tail to illustrate. Explained that Hekidu would slowly shake his tail in a natural way. While he will shake his tail up and down when he is angry or wants to appear scary. The snake began to think about how to explain the boy being cheerful or happy, but the moment was interrupted by falling pig carcasses. Hekidu rushed past the snake, carried the tiger closer, without saying a word, then turned back. Pretended not to care, telling the tiger to go quickly if she could move. Both the tiger girl and the snake looked at Hekidu's tail, which curled up unnaturally. The tiger girl turned to the snake, who just smiled with amusement. Hekidu wanted to insist that the tiger girl should hurry up. However, it seemed that Hekidu was exhausted, as he fell to the ground. The tiger girl told him to rest, but he didn't want to until the snake agreed and told him that in such a state, he definitely couldn't get out of this place. Hekidu pouted in anger and annoyance. As the night progressed, the boy lay on the ground, while the snake confessed that it wondered where he was, but then concluded from the animal carcasses he had hunted. The tiger girl watched the snake swallow intact animal carcasses, feeling satisfied with the food Hekidu brought back. A name caught the tiger lady's attention, and the snake tried to explain that that name was only given because of how precious the boy was. But in the end it still means that the snake has named his dish. The snake insisted that the name was needed to convince the boy that he would not be eaten, otherwise he would certainly have run away a long time ago. However, this plan was discovered at some point. Curiosity gradually turned towards the tiger, as the snake wondered why she was so attached to Hekidu, to the point of being willing to risk her life. The tiger glanced at the boy and noticed the scars on his wrist, causing her face to darken. She admitted that she never knew what he was thinking. She asked why their species ate each other, and the answer came immediately. The snake explains that dragons are proud. They look down on all living things and mock those who live on the ground. Anger came immediately. People gradually grew fed up with the dragon's behavior, causing the birds to spread lies about eating a dragon's heart, making one immortal. This caused the dragons to be killed one after another, but it seemed that the rumors did not matter, because dragon meat, although dangerous, was still very delicious. The dragons avoided landing on the ground and started eating each other. This unfortunate situation resulted in no more baby dragons being born, along with their pride, causing them to never want to live together again. This means that dragons are now extinct, at least according to the story. The snake did not feel too sorry for this species. Hekidu seemed to move and sweat in his sleep, a sign of another nightmare that the tigress noticed. She quickly lay next to him, as this had helped him when he opened his eyes last time. Deciding to bury their heads next to him, they both fell asleep again. Eventually, Hekidu recovered and was able to fly easily again. The snake told the tiger to keep his tail a secret. But the boy looked and felt uncomfortable, grabbed the tiger lady's hand, and told the snake not to fill her head with nonsense. A smile flashed from afar. As the tiger was lifted higher, you can see the sunrise shining on the ground. The tiger girl stared with amazement, before they both landed on the ground in the forest. Leaving Hekidu to boast about how the tigers could never do anything like that. The tiger noticed that the dragon boy's tail curled up, signaling that he was having fun. Made her feel satisfied before the two set off. It seemed that the dragon that was mentioned in the rumors was moving through the lands, following instructions from the birds. Finally, it landed in the snake's hole. The giant snake poked its head out of the cave, caught the dragon's attention when she entered, and was seen as a strange visitor. An unhappy expression appeared on the dragon lady's face as she talked about hearing there was a dragon in the area. Then asked the snake where Hekido was. A memory of the boy's instructions about the direction they were both headed appeared in the snake's mind. Makes it giggle, then tells the truth, but it's unclear whether its words can be trusted or not. The dragon immediately assumed it was a lie, because it came from a snake. This made the snake feel curious about the question, and the dragoness admitted that she had tried eating the snake before. This answer caused the snake to immediately rush out and into the water, so that the dragon can fly above the water. Before the snake tried to reach out and bite the girl's neck, it tried to wrap around her to paralyze her. Even though the snake was experienced in trying to attack a dragon, the dragon used the claw at the end of her tail to stab the snake's head, creating an opportunity for the dragon to smash the snake's head onto the ground. Blood flowed from the snake's body, making the snake feel a memory suddenly appear in its mind. It remembered when Hekido had tried to be greedy with his food before being patted. The dragon growled and hissed harder, causing the snake to say that this behavior would get him nothing in this world, and that it was better to use force, especially when trying to steal her food. Hekido pursed his lips and tried biting the snake's tail, causing the snake to smile in satisfaction, realizing that his actions had no effect. The snake's decapitated body was left on the ground, while the dragon girl washed herself in the water. Looked at the area and felt like I wanted to settle here. After killing the snake, she went back to ask the two birds for their opinion. And they agreed, calling her Master Shinsui. The girl, panting, looked ahead, expecting to see Hekido again, as if she wanted to get along with him, as survivors of her species, like they did before. This wish was encouraged, before the two birds were tasked with finding the dragon boy. Once again, when Hekido moved with the white tiger through a bamboo forest, they stopped by the cliff. The boy watched in the distance while what appeared to be a female leopard was moving across the land, mouth holding a weak fox cub. A male leopard is leisurely running after a female leopard, causing the female leopard to open her mouth wider so that the baby fox falls to the ground and rolls away. The baby fox trembled and looked up at the female leopard, crying out with weak eyes, calling the female leopard mother. The female leopard growled and swung her claws at the male leopard, pulling the cub closer and protecting him. This scene made the male leopard feel very confused, and he asked the female leopard why she was protecting a fox. When the female leopard was still a leopard, she did not hesitate, insisting that the fox was her cub. This made the male leopard even angrier, and he decided to kill the cub. It rushed forward, trying to bite the fox, but was stopped by the female leopard, its teeth stuck into the female leopard's neck. The little fox stood there, anxiously watching this scene. The male leopard was surprised to see a white tiger rushing towards him. It jumped back and asked the tiger to leave, confused as to why she was blocking my way. But the white tiger only replied that she did not like what was happening. Their roars lead to a fight between the two animals. Both rushed at each other, claws swinging. Then the white tiger bit the male leopard's leg, pulling it away. She tried to cut the male leopard's neck but missed. However, the white tiger's actions gave the male leopard the opportunity to jump out and let out an angry hiss. But it only glanced at the mother leopard and the baby fox, then decided to rush towards them. It quickly caught the fox cub, causing it to cry out in surprise and fear. The male leopard was about to run away with the cub when suddenly a tail swung strongly at his face, causing him to stagger. The cub fell into Hekidu's arms, while the male leopard was lowered to the ground by the white tiger's weight. Both animals warned the male leopard, threatening to steal its limbs or strangle it to death. In the end, the male leopard had no choice but to reluctantly leave, while Hekidu and the white tiger watched it go away. Hekidu told the tiger girl not to interfere in every small conflict. But she was surprised to see that he himself was involved in those things. He immediately objected, saying that he only intervened when the tiger girl started it first. However, their childish argument was interrupted by the wolf's cheerful barking, when he saw his mother approaching after resting for a while. Mother leopard and baby fox are showing affection to each other. Before noticing Hekidu and the white tiger girl watching them, the female leopard asked the tigress if she found this strange, and the tigress, while watching the fox run to her, responded sadly. Silence filled the air for a moment before she confessed that the male from before was the one who killed her children. This made the dragon boy feel confused when he heard that being the same species had no meaning, especially when her offspring are not those of the other male, and this male wants his own offspring, ready to destroy anyone who gets in the way. After grieving the loss of her cubs, the female leopard finally stumbled upon the cub, curled up next to her dead mother. This scene made the leopard feel as if he could not leave such a small fox behind. Hekidu, seeing the situation, spoke up about the species difference, despite the relationship between them, ignoring the fact that he was also in a similar situation. The female leopard agreed that it was unnatural, but she didn't care right now, because she knew that the little fox needed her, and she played with the child before asking if they were together, despite their different species. When night came, the female leopard slept in the tree, holding the fox in her arms. However, it seemed that the male leopard was lurking above the nearby cliff, get ready to attack and surprise them. The male leopard's plans were interrupted when the white tiger and Hekidu appeared right behind him, and they knew he would return. They reiterated their warning, causing him to roar and try to run away. But after being pinned to the ground, the dragon and tiger attacked him as said. In the end, the two rested nearby after their actions. The white tiger began to groom itself and clean the bloodstains from its fur. Then she noticed Hekidu looking far ahead. She crawled closer to rub against him lovingly, but he noticed a little bit of blood left on her shoulder. He stopped for a moment, then tried to lick the blood away. She looked at him in confusion, then raised his hand to caress his face. However, Hekidu gently bit her hand, causing her to withdraw her hand in surprise. Hekidu chuckled and told the tiger that they should find a way to prolong her life, but the tiger was confused about what she would do if she lived longer than expected. This also puzzled Hekidu, and he said that a fundamental reason for doing so was to not die. The tiger girl stopped in silence, her eyes lowered until Hekidu came closer, smirked and told her there was no need to think about difficult things, especially for a tiger like her. Crossing the cold mountains, Hekidu was lying on the tiger girl's body, while she crawled through the snow. Finally, it seems like the tiger has found a place for them to stay. She dug through the snow and dirt to expand the space, then crawled in and put the boy down. The white tiger was about to leave when Hekidu grabbed her tail and asked her where she was going. She simply replied that she would go find food. Whether it was because he didn't want to leave her or because he remembered the times she had difficulty with that when they first met, Hekidu reluctantly let go of her hand, and told her to go catch something small. As she walked through the snowy forest, the woman looked at her pale body and remembered how, as a child, she had wondered why her color was different from other tigers. Someone had told her that it was because her body needed to blend perfectly into the snow. That person in her memory asked Hakude if he understood that reason. Finally, the woman discovered a herd of cattle and stealthily approached. But the slight noise from her footsteps on the snow attracted their attention. Since there were no other sounds and the animals did not perceive danger in the distance, they returned to continue eating. Hakuto remembered what she was taught and realized that there was no need to chase prey. Instead, it's better to wait patiently. After quietly following the herd, she rushed in and caught a cow. Kill it while trying to pull it back. The white tiger exhaled and continued its journey. However, the bloodstains seemed to attract the attention of a hungry bear, rushed towards the tiger, trying to attack her. Its claws tore into her side as Hakuto growled, slowly back away, remembering that there is no need to resist hungry bears, because they don't care about their own safety. She let the bear take the cow, walking while trying not to lick his wounds to avoid making them worse. But Hakuto found a river. She noticed a crane standing in the water, rushed at it as the bird tried to fly away. She caught the bird despite falling into the water. Meanwhile, Hakuto was trying to keep warm in the hole, his tail wrapped around his body. He noticed Hakuto returning with the dead crane. But Hakuto didn't seem grateful at all, complaining about how long it took her. Hakuto asked her to come warm him. But she was angry at that attitude and turned back to tearing the dead crane apart alone, growling in annoyance. Hakuto suddenly remembered a memory, when she was scolded for trying to resist when another tiger cub hit her. She was told not to let her emotions overwhelm her, but to pay attention to her surroundings. With that thought, her eyes suddenly saw Hakuto, who was truly trembling, causing her to wrap her body around him. Hakuto raised his head, leaning against her body. They lay like that all night, before Hakuto noticed the wounds on her side. That made him reach over and press his fingers into the wounds. She was startled slightly and Hakuto smiled slightly. But Hakuto is fed up with his attitude and doesn't want to be an adult right now. Immediately kicked him away and pushed him into the cold. Hakuto trembled again and tried to press himself against her body for warmth, but Hakuto refused with a cold look. Hakuto continued to complain about having to leave this place because of her, and at the same time begged her because he felt cold. As they travel through the lands, different animals share their opinions and insights. An animal with leprosy said that, if you are good at hunting, you will have no difficulty finding food, and that is what brings a long life. An animal that lives in a hole in the ground advises that a long life is easily guaranteed. When a person finds a safe place to sleep and hide, a bird explains that survival will be guaranteed, as long as the person has enough speed to escape from enemies as they approach. When they approached a bear, it asked to be fed dragon meat before offering any advice. Hakuto felt annoyed by that answer and growled while chasing after the animal. But the boy immediately regretted his actions when he felt the cold and ran over to lean on Hakuto's warmth. Feeling disappointed because the silence he was hoping for didn't come true in the end, they came across a group of monkeys, who happily greeted them because they saw a dragon. They offer free advice. This surprised Hakuto a bit, however, he couldn't help but feel happy at their enthusiasm. The monkey, apparently the leader of the group, appeared confused when asked about how to live longer. The monkey leader decided that the dragon had lived long enough. But the revised question was about the tiger. Even so, the monkey still believes that it will not be possible to change the predetermined lifespan. This made Hakuto sigh in frustration, because he already knew that information and still wanted to find another way. A feeling of regret appeared on the monkey's face. As other members of the herd approached to offer drinks, the leader explained that the drink is made from fruit, which has the effect of warming and providing energy to the body, along with some dried meat because they are carnivores. The monkey also offered them a place to rest for the night, where they can lie down on a little straw and cow hair. But Hakuto felt hesitant at this excessive kindness, until he saw Hakuto drinking juice without any concern. Hakuto gently reminded her, even though she enjoyed its delicious taste. At that moment, the monkey drank from his cup and reassured him that it was not poisonous. The dragon boy took a sip and was confused by the taste, until the monkey started talking again about the topic under discussion. Asked the boy if he knew about the rumors about the dragon's heart. The monkey leader explains that a monkey ate a dragon's heart and died within 2 days. But later, a wolf ate that monkey and suffered the same fate. So it's possible that the dragon's heart contains something like a toxin. Hakuto felt confused by that theory, but thought for a moment and concluded that a dragon's heart certainly does not make one immortal. While Hakuto rested in the recommended space, he turned back to look at the woman and started blushing, panting to herself as she felt her body heating up. He felt extremely hot, but his attention was attracted by Hakuto suddenly appearing on him. Hakuto was confused by that action, looked at her when she admitted she wanted something from him, before she approached, leaving no trace on his body. Hakuto felt even more frustrated and confused when Hakuto looked at her lips and explained that she wanted his heart. Her claws dug deep into his chest, causing a bloody stain. Suddenly, Hakuto woke up from the pain, realized that a dragon was hovering over him, while the monkey from before was sitting on him. He realized that his hands and feet were tied tightly, squirming in his restraints, when the monkey stabbed him in the chest again, causing Hekidu to startle slightly and struggle angrily. The pillars he was tied to were damaged, but still held up against that power. He tried to use his jaws to throw the monkey out, until he was forced to stop because the rope was tight around his neck. Unfortunately, he stopped struggling and fell to the ground. Hekidu tries to find Hakude, but the monkey notices and explains that she's not here. And probably dreaming a happy dream. The monkey hummed, holding the dagger, just wondering if the toxin is already present in the dragon's body or is it only produced after they die. This made it wonder what would happen if it ate the heart of a living dragon, stabbing Hekidu in the chest once more. But at that moment, a bird flew down from the sky and kicked the monkey in the face. Its body slid across the ground, and the woman stood in front of Hekidu's body. While the dragon boy stared blankly, filled with confusion. He heard the bird affirm that she would take him away. From there, the female eagle stood straight, while the monkey leader recovered from the attack, holding his head before becoming angry at the situation. He was helped to his feet by the other monkeys, and they watched him call out the eagle's name. He ordered the remaining monkeys to attack the woman, but she was not frightened by the hostility from these monkeys. She prepared her legs and kicked at a monkey. Step on another, be ready to deal with the rest. While getting up from the ground and re-prepared his dagger, he tried to attack the bird by surprise, rushing back and trying to stab her in the back. But she was in no danger. Because you don't fight alone. Her male companion flew down from the sky and slammed his foot down on the monkey's head, causing it to stagger again. While the monkey tries to recover from the blow, he saw footsteps coming towards him, but had no time to react before the monkey leader was punched in the face and completely knocked unconscious. The eagle couple stood firm with confidence. One of the two snatched the dagger from the monkey's hand, then cut the dragon's rope. However, there is still a monkey in the tree, trying to rush towards the female eagle, but the other eagle was alert and protected her from the other monkeys during this time. When all the ropes have been cut, the female eagle called out to her companion, calling him Misumi. Then the two flew into the sky with Hekidu in their arms. But the monkeys could do nothing now against these three people, now that they were in the air. However, Hekidu liked the situation, despite having escaped the monkeys, and asked to be released. He began to thrash around in frustration, then swung his tail to hit the eagle's face, causing him to fall. But Hekidu realized that he couldn't fly like normal. Hekidu worries about what will happen when he falls to the ground from this height. But the eagles quickly saved him before he fell to his death. Meanwhile, he wondered aloud about his embarrassment at not being able to fly. But the birds took him to a far place, in the mountains. Hekidu thought about his lack of flying ability being related to the monkeys. But he turned his attention to the birds, wondering if they were going to eat him. The female eagle quickly denied that thought, explaining that he was being taken to meet their master. His confusion made her laugh softly, then explains that their master is a dragon, like Hekidu, and she wants to befriend and live with him. However, he didn't seem to care at all, which confused her, as he immediately expressed his hatred for dragons, including himself. When Hekidu stood up and leaned against the wall, he asked the pair of eagles why they served a dragon, and the woman explained that the dragon had saved their lives. This confused the dragon boy even more, but the woman insisted her words were true and that they would not be alive without the dragon's help. Hekidu looked at her with a sullen expression, still not believing the situation, and asked if this was really a dragon. As the eagle woman gasped, she wanted to know what Hekidu was implying. Hekidu explains that dragons are often too arrogant to help or live with birds. She believes that their master is a wonderful person and that he will understand after meeting her, because they are the same species. And he is said to have been lonely until now. When night comes, the eagles go to sleep, leaving Hekidu to his own thoughts. However, he noticed that a strand of hair on his body belonged to Hakude. Hekidu hugged it affectionately and felt a glimmer of determination. He got up and secretly left while the birds were sleeping. It seemed that the female eagle had noticed Hekidu's movements but did nothing. Let the boy try to climb the mountain even though he had difficulty holding on to the ground. The sun begins to rise and it seems Misumi decides to finally call her sister's attention to report Hekidu's disappearance. The older sister was filled with confusion and anger as they set out together to search for him. As for Hekidu, he believed he had gone quite a distance away from the mountains before running away. Meanwhile, the monkeys locked Hakude in a cave, where she would sleep clutching the bag. When she woke up, she realized that what she was holding was not a dragon, which confused her. She went to the cave entrance and howled in panic, clawing at the rocks. It seemed like something had approached the monkey guarding the cave. A cry came from outside. Before the rocks started to move away, light from outside shone into the cave when Hakude looked up to see the familiar tiger from before. The male tiger happily welcomed her, but Hakude walked by without responding. ignoring him. After Hakude escaped the cave, she immediately chased after him to find and push the leader monkey to the ground. Demands to know where Hekidu is. The monkey quickly admitted that Hekidu had been taken from him, and she immediately ran away. The male tiger tried to chase her. The male tiger told Hakude that she should give up, explaining that he could have been eaten as soon as he found her, and she should go with him. However, his offer was quickly rejected as Hakude turned to look at him with a sad and disappointed expression. This immediately changed his mind, and the male tiger tried to be less adamant, pretending she was just unsure about his initial proposal. But he decided he wanted to make her feel better and offered to help search for the boy. Meanwhile, a pack of wolves is chasing Hekidu, who tripped over tree roots and slipped on the ground, creating an opportunity for a wolf to rush at him. However, the wolf could only be disappointed when he saw the dragon hit him in the face with his tail. Even so, the wolves still surrounded the boy and planned to attack his body to avoid being hit by their tails. But no one expected that an eagle would swoop down and take Hekidu away. The wolves looked on with confused and bewildered expressions, then howled and barked in frustration. Meanwhile, Hekidu was transported to a far distance, and the two sides looked at each other in silence. Hekidu immediately asserted that he did not want to meet this dragon, but Misumi immediately explained, "He has no intention of forcing you." This surprised Hekidu because he thought they both worked for this dragon. However, Misumi admitted that he wanted to leave this situation if possible. Hekidu just said to run away, but Misumi clearly couldn't do that and refused to explain why. Continued to kick Hekidu into the forest below. When he noticed his sister plunging from the sky, the woman landed on a tree branch and asked him if he had found the boy, but Misumi turned away and tried to lie that he hadn't found Hekidu yet. This made the female eagle angry. It seemed like she knew her younger brother was lying. She stepped closer, her eyes sharp, and told him not to get in her way, then tried to walk away. Misumi tries to stop her, explaining that returning Hekidu to the dragon would serve their purpose and could lead to their abandoning them. Whatever his real purpose was, to stop stopping his sister or not. The woman raised her wings threateningly, causing Misumi to step back. She warned that she would never forgive him if he intended to betray her. After that, the female eagle continued to follow Hekidu's blood trail. He didn't go far, so she easily found him. She quickly caught his body and threw him to the ground, then pinned Hekidu with her legs reaching above him. She asked why he didn't want to meet another dragon, confused by his aversion. Because they were of the same species and the female dragon seemed eager to meet him. Hekidu asked the big bird to get away from him, but she refused and stared at him, seeing the similarities between him and her master. Tell him that he has eyes like this female dragon. The female eagle pressed her feathers against the scratches on Hekidu's face, not paying attention to her screams or pleas for her to stop. She seemed to be in a trance. Her face was red. Continued his actions until a roar echoed in the distance. Hakude swung his claws at the female eagle. She flew high to avoid the attack, protecting Hekidu's body with his own, as the two claimed ownership of Hekidu. The female eagle was about to fight Hakude until Misumi stepped in to intervene, stopped the confrontation between sisters, and explained that they could not fight a tiger. She still feels hesitant about leaving, but her brother reminds her that the full moon is coming, and they might not arrive in time for something important. With that, she decided to listen. And Misumi gave Hekidu a look of communication before flying away with her sister. Hakude followed their direction and suddenly changed his reaction. Her features softened as she realized that they were now safe together. The two rubbed their heads together as they lay on the ground. And Hekidu scratched her head, causing Hakude to lean closer and start looking at his face to show his affection and joy at seeing him again. She crawled up to his face, close to each other, enjoying the relief of finally being together after so long apart. But at that moment, Hekidu began to wonder how she got here. He turned his attention to the fact that the male tiger was here and observed the scene unfolding. He greeted Hekidu calmly and was stared at by the boy. Asked Hakude why the tiger was here. Although the male tiger believes everything is okay now, when everyone is resting after a stressful situation, Hekidu was lying on the grass. The male tiger asked Hakude to confirm if she really did not intend to eat the boy, causing her to scream and turn around to glare at him. Her reaction surprised the male tiger, but Hakude turned away and tried to think of something to make the male tiger understand and actually care about the situation. Finally, she explained that they would hunt together, and Hekidu would find her prey from the air, while she would chase them on the ground, making the male tiger hum softly and understand that leaving would be better to keep the boy alive, for his usefulness. The male tiger chuckled and wished he could fly too. It would be easier to hunt and move, and also fun. The male tiger wondered if he could grow wings if he ate a lot of birds. Hakude started giggling with a gentle smile, and that reaction seemed to excite the male tiger, causing him to suddenly move closer and hold her hand. Hopefully this can lead to some result. Unfortunately, disappointing him, Hakud slapped him in the face, causing the male tiger to be confused and a pout appeared on his face. Hakud growled and explained that she didn't want to be touched. The male tiger wondered if he had done anything wrong to her, but Hakude did not say that she had anything on her mind, confusing him even more. Suddenly, a dragon tail rose into the air as the boy sat up after resting. Hekidu's appearance made Hakude happy. She leaned closer to caress him, making Hekidu smile and taunt the male tiger. This makes the male tiger jealous. Even though I still want to show off. Hekidu immediately told Hakude that he was hungry, something that was already familiar to her. However, this time it wasn't because of Hekidu's laziness, but because he couldn't fly anymore. Both tigers were confused by the situation, but Hekidu himself had no answer for it. The male tiger remembered the previous conversation and called the boy useless. Hekidu felt insulted by those words and turned to argue with Hakude. Blames the whole situation on Hakude because of her enthusiasm for trusting the monkeys. However, the male tiger wanted to protect her. The mention of Hakude's name confused the little dragon, and the male tiger explained that it was her name. At the same time, he introduced himself as Ogle. This made Hekidu feel jealous because he didn't know the white tiger's name before. Hakud was also confused by Hekidu's behavior, wondering if she wasn't allowed to tell others like Ogle her name. This made Hekidu realize how silly that idea was, and he immediately changed the subject, not mentioning it again. After that, all three ate together. Hekidu wanted Hakude to help untie the ropes that were still tied tightly around his body. However, Ogle appeared confused, not understanding why the dragon boy didn't bite them off himself. Hekidu explains that, even if he can bite, he cannot reach the rope that is tied around his neck. The group struggled for a while with the ropes because they were tied too tightly. Hekidu suggested they use their claws to cut. And this method immediately worked. When the wire was removed, the boy felt much more comfortable and free. However, there was still one last string wrapped around his tail. When Hekidu asked to cut this rope, Hakude immediately did so, quickly cutting through it with his claws. Unexpectedly, as soon as the last rope was untied, Hekidu suddenly began to fly into the sky. Ogle and Hakude looked on in amazement, their expressions showing shock as they realized that removing the rope had finally restored Hekidu's ability to fly. The dragon boy felt happy with the current situation. Fly freely in the sky. Looking down with a satisfied expression. Hekidu suddenly rushed down and hugged Hakude, pulling her into an intimate hug. He told her to cling to him. And Hakude did as he was told. Soon, the two began to soar into the sky, causing Ogle to stand on the ground in surprise. I tried to call them back, but it was in vain because Hekidu paid no attention and continued to fly high. While flying, Hekidu noticed that Hakude seemed uncomfortable. He quickly turned around so she could sit more firmly, even lie comfortably on top of him, so she wouldn't have to worry about holding on anymore. Hakude looked up at the night sky with thoughtful eyes, then looked down at the forests and distant lands below. As her eyes scanned Hekidu's body, she noticed the scars from when the monkeys had tried to take his heart. Finally, the two began to land. Hakude hugged him tightly as they enjoyed the cold wind blowing over them. Hekidu slowly slowed down and turned around, gently placing Hakude on the grass. He still hovered above her, panting from the flight, and asked if she found the moment pleasant. Hakude sighed with a small smile, simply calling his name as an answer. Meanwhile, the full moon shines brightly in the night sky, and the two eagles seem to be affected by this moonlight. Misumi walked up to her sister, seeing her breathing heavily, while black streaks began to spread up her neck, the same way they were also crawling up his neck. Misumi reassured her that they no longer had to travel far. He lifted her body and continued walking towards the waiting female dragon. Upon arriving, Misumi placed her sister on the ground and knelt down on one knee, begged Shunsui to give them some of her blood. Shunsui smiled slightly sarcastically, blaming why the two of them were so late. Misumi bowed her head in apology. But the female dragon only replied with a tired voice that she was very hungry. Misumi tried to reassure him that he would go hunting immediately. But Shunsui demands to eat something now. Having said that, she wrapped her tail around Misumi's legs. The dragon girl smiled slightly and asked if she could exchange some of her blood to keep Misumi's leg. However, Misumi explains that if he loses a leg, he will no longer be able to hunt. Hearing that, Shunsui snorted coldly, turned away, not caring at all. Seeing her sister's condition, Misumi became more desperate. He begged Shunsui to give some blood, at least just to save his sister. However, the female dragon smirked and asked again, why should she give away her blood when they didn't even bring anything back for her? The words made Misumi look at Shunsui with a helpless expression, then looked at her sister again. His breathing became rapid and panicked. Having no other choice, Misumi gritted her teeth and gave in, calling Shunsui's attention once again. He offered to trade his leg for her blood. Shunsui smirked, clearly pleased. She turned towards Kokuran, Misumi's older sister, who was lying on the ground, and called her name. Kokuran slowly stood up, his eyes filled with fatigue, and whispered an apology while walking toward Shunsui. Shunsui gently bit his finger and told Kokuran to open his mouth. The female eagle followed suit, letting every drop of blood fall into her mouth. With a gulp, Kokuran felt his health visibly recover. Shunsui then walked towards Misumi, who was stretching his legs out with a hesitant look on his face. When she was about to swing her tail with strong downward force, everyone thought that the leg would be lost. But the stab completely missed his leg, surprising everyone. Shunsui laughed and confessed that she was just joking. Lifting Misumi's head, she dripped blood into his mouth, teasingly whispering that the eagles were adorable and wouldn't survive without her. However, Kokuran just coldly looked into the distance. His eyes seemed to be directed both at Shunsui and at Misumi, his emotions unclear. After recovering from the poison that was ravaging their bodies earlier, both eagles hunted together, thereby quenching Shinsui's ravenous hunger. Kokuran wondered whether he should leave this place or not. Hekidu is with Hakude, and Shinsui asks if the tiger is female. Kokuran confirmed that yes. And Shinsui expressed confidence that Hakude would not harm the dragon boy. She believes that Hakude may be taking care of the dragon like his own. However, Shinsui also admitted that the current situation was more complicated and decided to look into the situation himself. Kokuran, worried, warns of creatures that might target a dragon. Said that moving would be risky because they would easily notice them. However, Shinsui reassured them, saying there was nothing to worry about as they had protection from the pair of eagles. Kokuran, with eyes full of love, agreed, saying that both eagles would put Shinsui's safety above all else, willing to protect her no matter the danger. Meanwhile, Misumi sat at a distance, her face hidden under her feathers, reflecting on the times he started learning how to improve his hunting skills. A process guided by his sister. Kokuran and Misumi were called by another eagle, who flew down. This person was their brother, and he brought with him a baby dragon that he had found, dead. They remember the rumors, wondering if they are true or not. But know that many animals died after eating dragon meat. No matter what they heard, they all knew that dragon meat was truly delicious. Time passed, and everyone began to feel nauseous on a full moon night. Their brother was confused by the strange wounds on his body. While the siblings expressed their pain, the brother began to feel the wounds spreading to his neck. But it seems their situation is not ignored. Shinsui floats above and calls them fools for eating dragon meat. The three of them felt confused, because the dragon has been eaten for a long time. However, Shinsui explains that the dragon's toxins only affect the host on the night of the full moon, and that is tonight. They began coughing up blood, and Kokuran and Misumi's brother wondered if there was any way to save them. At this point, Shinsui explained that it was possible, but she had no reason to save these birds. Shinsui giggled and said she was very hungry, causing the eagle to look towards his brothers and sisters and believe that he must do something to save them. Because it was my actions that led to this situation. Kokuran and Misumi's brother, though reluctant, says that his life can be sacrificed, as long as the rest are saved. Immediately, Shinsui licked his lips and then approached, biting the eagle in front of Kokuran and Misumi. A groan of surprise and pain rang out, hidden in the dragon's jaws. When Shinsui ate their brother and looked down at Kokuran and Misumi, claim ownership over them, while greeting them freely. Shinsui was resting after a meal, and Misumi asks her sister if there is really any point in living if they have to endure abuse. However, Kokuran claims she believes there was no abuse, as the dragon gave them his blood. Her younger brother corrected her by saying that they were just toys to the dragon. However, Kokuran had enough of his younger brother's looks and shouted for him to leave, then flew away after the argument. Misumi watched her sister fly away and sighed, telling himself that he and his sister were truly cursed. Hakude and Hekidu are resting in a warm climate. Hekidu lay on the grass while Hakude played with the tip of his tail as if it were a cat toy. Moments later, Hakude's claws scratched Hekidu's tail, causing one of his scales to fall off. This action caused Hakude to tell Hekidu that something had fallen off his tail, causing Hekidu to jump with a cry of surprise and ask if her claw really did that. She wondered if there was a way to restore his scales, but Hekidu looked at the wound and said that it was foolish to think that such a thing could be restored. Hekidu's behavior made Hakude feel bad. Her head bowed with a sad expression. She weakly admitted her mistake of not being careful and scratched her wound with her claws. Hekidu saw her gloomy expression and began to laugh, gently scratching the wound with his paw to show her that there was nothing to worry about. The scales that fell from his body were all old scales. Hakude felt frustrated because he had been tricked, but quickly changed his expression, crawled closer and picked up a piece of scale with a gentle look, singing softly about it. She wondered what new things she would learn about the boy every day. Hekidu observed and saw Hakude intently observing the scale, holding it up with the sunlight shining through. Hekidu was surprised by her reaction, and turned away, making the white tiger curious and come closer to touch the skin under the fallen scale. This made Hekidu shiver and moan, telling her not to touch those places because her skin was still sensitive. After explaining, Hekidu began to levitate, making Hakud feel confused. He muttered to himself as he felt his tail curl up, complaining about the emotions he was starting to feel more clearly each day.